Are they prepared to go into next year with Pickard and Skinner being their two guys? I don't think the free agent market today is going to help them, or even in this summer. So whether it's the trade market, I don't even know myself. Are they prepared to go back and run it back the same way they were in net? Because that's probably, the biggest problem that they had in getting over the hump.
That is a fantastic segue, because we're going to have more on that in our boardroom. Jason, Sam, and Tim. Timmy.
Thank you, Mr. Amber. Of all the UFA goalies this year, only Jake Allen and Ottawa backup Anton Forsberg posted a save percentage above .900. That's above league average. Is the goalie out there for the Edmonton Oilers to get better than what Luke Gazdic said in Calvin Pickard and Stuart Skinner?
There's nobody on that list there. Other than Dan Vladar, I would probably dip my fishing rod in the water there. I think that there's something to be said with Vladar, but Calgary to Edmonton, I guess it's happened with Smith in the past. Yeah. Here's something I'm going to keep an eye on. So Vancouver extended Demko. Yeah. They extended Lankinen earlier in the spring or whenever that happened.
By my count, that's two goalies.
Two goalies for a long time here, okay? Shelovs just ran the table at the American Hockey League level, won MVP of the playoffs down there. They have a history of making deals with each other. I don't know what the value is there. They'd probably have to overpay, Edmonton that is, maybe a second-round pick next year to acquire somebody like Shelovs, but that would shore that up. It would be a lot better look than what they have right now. Now, listen, Shelovs struggled in the NHL last year, Sammy, but the previous year when he came in playoffs, he did a heck of a job for the Vancouver Canucks. So now what he's got, from a scouting perspective, he's got more high leverage experience running the table in the American League. That's no easy feat. Just ask Gaz and Army. That's a tough job down there, and that's the guy I would target.
If you're the Edmonton Oilers fan base, how do you sell that to a guy who's unproven? Yeah. Calder Cup, amazing, right? But is he any different than the two guys you already have? Right. So what does that mean? This free agent class, do you take a look at Samsonov? Okay, is he a guy who can catch lightning in the bottle? Maybe, maybe not. It's all the same questions. For anyone in that list, I would have the same questions. Alex Lyon, a couple of years ago, gets Florida in. And when Bobrovsky was hurt down the stretch, he was so good, helped get him in. They lose in the final that year. But like Riddick, Kakkonen, none of these guys do it for me to say that it's going to be any better than what Skinner has offered or what Pickard has offered. Right. And so I think you're stuck in that same spot. So what do you do then? You become a little more defensively responsible up front. Maybe you add some depth to the back end. But even with Arvidsson gone, it's not like you got a ton of money to play with. So maybe what you do is you wait it out and you see what happens throughout the course of the season. Right. Does that guy emerge? Now, the history tells you that a midseason goalie trade often doesn't elicit the results you're looking for. So that's problematic. But if you've done your due diligence and you see a guy that, hey, maybe it's a Stolar, someone emerges in Toronto, maybe it's that type of guy who's had a little taste of success but hasn't played enough in his regular season career that you think he's going to pop. I don't think Shelovs is there yet with his experience in the regular season. Comfortably, I would have said that about Stolars before he signed with Toronto, but there is no answer on that list. There is no answer on that list.
Let me throw a couple more things out at you, because the Oilers in 2026 are missing their first-round pick, they're missing their second round, their fourth-round pick, and their fifth-round pick. So there's not a ton of picks that they can deal to go get a spot. And then you look at this. Draisaitl, $14 million over 8. McDavid, 12.5 right now, whatever he ends up doing, if he ends up doing. Bouchard, 10.5. Nurse, 9.5. Like, there's a lot of money tied up in 4 players. You can't just go out there. I mean, that's the problem in Edmonton. There's not a ton of picks and there's not a lot of cap room.
Listen, they're barking up a tree with no branches here. Like they have no draft capital. They don't have any goaltenders coming through the system, and you're going to have to take a swing, Sammy. Maybe Toronto's another one.
Maybe you do take a swing. Yeah.
Toronto's, but they're going to have to do that. I will say this: that when I look at that board and I look at how the Edmonton Oilers, it's hard for a goaltender to trade places mid-season. Depending on how you play. So think back to when Samsonov was in Toronto. Believe it or not, he's 6'2". There's nights he looks like he's 5'9" because he's so athletic and he gets outside the post. He gets swimming around. He loses his size advantage. When you trade for a goaltender midseason, your goalie coach and the structure that you play with has to be appropriate for everybody to get involved and be the best version of themselves. I know that sounds silly, but that's the way it is for goalies as well. Right. How are they going to play behind a certain type of group? So that's what makes it tough. I would sooner roll the dice on something like Sheila. They're backed into a corner, right? Yeah. They're in a tough
Where's Jonathan Quick
spot
in all of this? I know he re-signed with the Rangers, but he'd be a fascinating guy to me. I don't know. Jake Allen, I thought would have been a nice fit, but again, is he going to be the guy who's going to start and play your 50 games and into the playoffs? I don't know. They're in a tough spot.
When I was making all these notes for today, I was sitting around, I thought, you know who would be really interesting and might have a history is the Blues and Joel Hofer. And then I saw that the Blues not only re-signed Joel Hofer, but they tweeted out or X'd out, however you want to say it, won't be subject to offer sheets after signing a 2-year. I know there were folks in Edmonton who were hoping that might happen.